Okay, so we have a trade here, waking up this morning to a trade, and it is George Pickens going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A bit of a surprise, I would say. As the Steelers traded for DK Metcalf, I thought part of the logic was they wanted to have two players who could really win on the outside, but maybe they just feel like Metcalf can do a lot of what Pickens can do as well, and maybe better, so that's ultimately why they've part of why they might feel the need to move off of Pickens. It's interesting. It's interesting for a few reasons. First of all, weird timing, right? Weird to happen after the draft. Usually when you do something like this, you do it before the draft, so that way you can use that pick this year. Now the pick they won't be able to have until next year, so that's usually not how teams do things. Another thing that's, I think, worth noting is George Pickens is about to enter the last year of his rookie deal. And part of me wonders if maybe this wasn't a thing that they wanted to move off of him, but they were maybe trying to come up with a contract and realized it was going to be too much money, and so ultimately decided to make a move and get some value for him instead of losing him in the offseason for nothing. I think a thing that you have to mention when you're talking about this kind of stuff is the Steelers tend to know when it is time to cut bait with one of their wide receivers. Over the years, they have made moves to get rid of wide receivers that many thought were maybe not the right move. Getting rid of Antonio Brown for just a third and a fifth round pick when they got rid of him to the Raiders, who ultimately never even got to see Antonio Brown play one game with him. Obviously, I think even just last offseason, the Deontay Johnson trade, a trade that I didn't love at the time. I thought, hey, Deontay Johnson's a pretty good player for you, and, I'm not sure if you're getting a great player back. And ultimately, Deontay Johnson bounced around teams last year. So, they came out ahead there. So I think you have to almost be a little bit concerned if you're the Dallas Cowboys trading for a wide receiver from the Steelers when they tend to have a pretty good handle on some of this stuff. That being said, it still is a bit of a surprise. You look at the Steelers receiving core now, and one of the reasons why I like the DK Metcalf trade is because I thought it completed this receiving core, giving you another sort of outside threat. You now have Metcalf, who is, I think, very good. I think he's actually underrated. I think a lot of people act like he's not that great. I think he's a very good player. But then you have Calvin Austin the third. You have Robert Woods. I don't know if we're expecting Ben Skowronek to have a breakout season here finally. Scotty Miller. Maybe they're expecting Roman Wilson, who was a draft pick in not this most recent draft, but the draft before it. Maybe they're expecting him to be able to kind of have an impact this season. That's possible, but as a whole, as of right now, it's not a receiving core that's going to strike fear into your hearts, and I think it's a bit of a question mark there. Do have some tight ends that you like also. Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, very good tight end tandem. But as a whole, I think you would have loved the number 2 receiver, which is weird that they traded away their number 2 receiver, right? So that's why you wonder if there was something else behind the scenes, if there was a struggling to get a contract done type of thing going on. And again, maybe they just don't feel like he's going to be that valuable last year, but Pickens was very valuable, maybe they don't feel he's going to be that valuable this year, but Pickens was very valuable last year. And I think for the Dallas Cowboys, again, there is the weird Steelers voodoo, where every time they trade a receiver, it all goes to hell. So you have to be concerned that way. But if that doesn't happen, this feels like a win for the Dallas Cowboys, right? I mean, okay, yes, only 1 year of cheap production, and then you're going to have to trade him, but it's only a third-round pick, and you have now CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, with Dak Prescott to throw to, which could hopefully help them, complete this receiving core in that sense. So, I don't know. I mean, like, again, on paper, this feels like it completely opens up this receiving core. I mean, this is a team that traded a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, right? A 3rd-round pick for George Pickens. On paper, feels like a great move. When you still have Jake Ferguson, who can potentially be the over-the-middle guy if you want to go that route. So this is a receiving core that I like when heading into this year. A lot of people thought they might might draft a receiver with pick 12. They decided to go offensive line, but a lot of people thought that was going to be a position they were really going to attack in the draft. And maybe part of it is, we always kind of view this as a team deciding to get rid of a player. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys didn't love the receivers that they were that was on the market, and they made some calls. They didn't love the receivers that were on the market. They didn't love the receivers in the draft, and they ultimately said, well, okay, we wanted a guy in the draft. It didn't really fall to us the way we wanted to. Maybe they wanted Ted McMillan at pick 12 or a guy later on. Who knows? And maybe they just said, okay, let's make some calls and see who is who's a receiver available. And maybe the Steelers were just a team willing to get rid of George Pickens and went that way, which would certainly make you feel better about it if you're a Cowboys fan, because obviously, again, Steelers voodoo, all of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, and you think about the Cowboys as well. So you have an offensive line that should be able to block pretty well. You now have a better receiving core. You do have to wonder a little bit, could the Cowboys be getting underrated this next season? A team that, I've been critical of in the past just because I feel like they sometimes are, constantly in that, can make the playoffs, but very rarely in that I view them as a serious threat to go far in the playoffs. And I'm still not sure if I'm quite there now, but ultimately, I mean, you have a situation where with everything that went horribly wrong last year, to be able to now, be in position to not only try to, have everyone healthy, and I mean, Dak Prescott staying healthy will go a long way, but to actually have better options for him as well, that should help. Again, receivers are so important in today's NFL. You need to be able to, win down the field. And Pickens, for all of his wonkiness, he can win down the field. So that's sort of why I like him and why I think that this is a good trade for the Dallas Cowboys ultimately. Again, you would love it if they traded for George Pickens, and Pickens used to play for like the Jets or something, because then there isn't that weird just weird voodoo. It is what it is. But George Pickens is someone who I do feel like, while he's best known for his contested catches, he can run routes very well. And again, 24 years old. So if there isn't anything going on behind the scenes, and Pickens is going to continue to be what Pickens has been, I think he's like a really good number 2 option that could be a Dallas Cowboy for, the next 8 to 10 seasons if things go according to plan for the Dallas Cowboys. And you have CeeDee Lamb, who's 26, so this could be getting a guy who can be a threat across from him for the entirety of Lamb's career, which, hey, we always talk about building around quarterbacks, but you want to build around your number 1 wide receiver as well, and this can be a way to do that. So you do all this, you get a healthy Dak Prescott, and again, I'm not going to say Super Bowl, but I definitely feel much better about the Cowboys than I did yesterday. So yeah, ultimately, I think it's a good move. I don't fully understand it from the Steelers' perspective, but they've kind of earned the benefit of the doubt with this stuff. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.